Hey, Tony.
Hey, Adam.
How's it going?
Great. You?
Good. You ready?
I think so. I got my notes here, and yeah, I think so.
Nice.
What is it?
I don't know. Something feels a little bit off.
Really?
Yeah. Ah, there we go. That's better. Let's go.
Man, I wish I could go back in time.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Adam,
I'm Tony.
and we work at the Drum Center of Portsmouth, the largest independently owned drum store in the world. All of the drums and cymbals that you see in today's video will be available for purchase, and we'll put the links to buy them in the description below. And today we're talking about new vintage style drums. We are scientifically and subjectively going to compare 4 big name drum brands head to head to give you some potential options if you are looking for that kind of vintage style vibe.
And those 4 drum sets are the Gretsch Broadkaster, Ludwig Legacy Maple, Rogers Cleveland Series, and the George Way Tuxedo Studio.
So Tony, what are the similarities between these 4 vintage style kits?
All of these drums have maple poplar shells. They're almost all 13, 16, 22 configurations. The Broadkaster is a 12, 16, 22.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
We've put similar heads on all 4 kits. Coated ambassadors over clear ambassadors on the toms, and coated Power Stroke 3 batters with coated ambassador rezos on the kick drums. We've tuned all 4 kits the same using the TuneBot, and you can find those settings in the description. The recording setup and signal chain and processing is also all the same for all 4 kits, so you're really hearing the difference between the drum sets, not the processing.
We'll get into what sets these drums apart from each other as we dig into the details of each individual kit. And then we'll give you our general impressions and we'll compare them head to head at the end.
And our first kit is this Gretsch Broadkaster in antique pearl.
Yeah, she's a looker. The Broadkaster shells are a classic formula, maple, poplar, maple. They are finished on the interior with the famous Gretsch silver sealer. And unlike the other shells that you're going to see in this video, these shells don't have re-rings. Instead, they have an interior ply scarf joint, and that adds structural integrity to the shells so that they don't need those reinforcement rings. And the bearing edges are an exclusive reverse roundover, which allows more surface contact between the bearing edge and the drum head, giving you more of a woody tone. The toms and the snare drums in the Broadkaster series have the 302 hoops, which are made of 3mm double-flanged steel.
The snare drum with this kit is a 14 by 6.5 Broadkaster in satin antique maple. I'm a huge fan of these snares, especially the 8 by 14, but we didn't have any of those, so 6.5 by 14 it is, and it sounded great.
These drums are made really well. They have nice heavy-duty hardware to them, especially on the bass drum. This is the only kick drum that we're demonstrating today that has the straight spurs on them, which I prefer to curved spurs. They're a little more sturdy feeling. And with Gretsch, you get a ton of custom configuration options, tons of finishes, hardware options.
When setting up this kit, I felt very confident and comfortable in the tuning and just getting comfortable with the drums themselves. I felt like they were very easy to get in tune. They stayed in tune. I didn't have to go back and fix them a bunch of times. I noticed the kick drum felt extremely gratifying to play, and that's something that, if you play a bunch of drum sets, you start to realize that that's not something that is across the board. So when you have a bass drum that feels that great to play, it really inspires you. They're not a super loud set of drums. They're definitely more near field, which microphones really enjoy, and you'll hear that later. But if you're looking for something loud, this kit isn't going to throw the most insane amount of volume.
And the kick drum, like all the other kick drums, we just have it wide open, right? Nothing inside.
Yeah, we chose on this video to go no muffling. So what you're hearing is just the bass drum the way that God intended.
Sure.
The next kit that we're featuring is the Ludwig Legacy Maple in Mod Orange.
Legacy Maple is a modern twist on their original 3-ply shell formula. The shell redesign was introduced in 1968 and lasted until 1976. And then it was reintroduced again by popular demand in 2005. These shells have a 3-ply, 1/16 inch maple outer, 1/8 inch poplar core ply, and then another 1/16 inch maple inner ply with 1/4 inch solid maple reinforcement rings. The bearing edges are a 30-degree inner cut with a 1/4 inch radius roundover. And we also custom ordered this kit from Ludwig, and we tricked it out with all the bells and whistles. So we've got the internal mufflers, the dampeners, which are very handy to have if you're recording or in a gig. And we also included the white reso coat interiors, which objectively smell better than the silver sealer interiors on the Gretsch.
Now, we didn't have a matching snare for this particular kit, so we decided to take one of our exclusive Ludwig Supraluxe snare drums. This is a 14x5 chrome over brass snare drum with chrome over brass hoops. And this particular one is also an 8-lug, which kind of adds to the vintagey of it.
Classic. Yeah. The Legacy Classic is my personal favorite sound from Ludwig. These are completely customizable. You can get the rail mount on the kick drum if you want, tons of finish options. And a little thing, the tuning rods for the bass drums, they've kind of gone more modern sensibility with the tuning rods. At the very bottom, they just have the standard tension rods instead of having
T-handles. It makes it a lot easier to actually use your bass drum pedal of choice.
And you also get more fine tuning. I think it's a nice touch. Not a huge deal, but I noticed.
What I noticed right away with this kit is that it feels extremely solid and very well made. Everything about it is beefed up and rugged. So the tension rods and the lug casings, they feel like they're not going anywhere while you're playing, which is nice. You're very sure of the drums while you're tuning them, and very sure of them while you're playing them. The toms feel nice and soft under the sticks. I did feel like they projected and threw a little bit more volume compared to the Gretsch Broadkaster kit. And also the bass drum, again, felt great to play and felt very powerful. You could feel the low end coming in through your
Down in my plums.
through your leg, which is again something that is very helpful while playing and making you kind of feel more inspired while you're playing as well. Next up is this Rogers Cleveland kit in blue Onyx.
Rogers Cleveland series is their high-end, USA-made line of drums. These pay tribute to the classic elements of the vintage Rogers signature appointments. Beaver tail lugs, the bow tie tension rods on the kick drum, the classic script logos, and the bass drum hoop inlays. The Cleveland Series shells are their exclusive contemporary twist on their classic shells. So these are a little bit thicker 5-ply maple poplar with maple reinforcement rings. And the bearing edges are a 45-degree reverse roundover, so also a little bit of a more modern twist.
And the snare drum we used on this kit is a SuperTen. This is a 14 by 6.5 version, which is a maple poplar shell with a 2-ply reinforcement ring. I really like this drum, very sensitive, a little bit bigger and fatter sounding than the Dynasonic that they're really known for. I personally prefer this one, so I mean, to each their own.
Classic. So when you dig into this kit costs the same as the previous two. They're not inexpensive. These drums absolutely hold their own against the Ludwig and the Gretsch, in my opinion. The hardware is, a classic recreation. It's a one-to-one of Roger's hardware, and it feels heavy. The hoops are 2.3 flange. The bow tie tension rods are real thick and heavy. The interior of the shells with the fruitwood stain is a very nice touch. All these shells are flawless. The bearing edges are great.
The thing that jumped out to me right away with these is that the sound really jumps when you play them. And I'm pretty sure that kind of translated to the room as well, but at least from right behind the kit, these sound exciting when you're playing them. The toms feel big and open and full, slightly thicker shell, and that slightly sharper edge is giving these drums a bit more of an exciting feel and kind of expressiveness as well.
Classic.
And lastly, we have this gorgeous George Way Tuxedo Studio Kit in Elbaite metallic green.
Elbaite.
Classic. Canadian Ron Dennett acquired the rights to the George Way Drum Company back in 2006, and since then his vision with the company is to provide drummers with the original vintage look and sound of this heritage brand while using more modern manufacturing methods. These shells are a thin 4-ply maple poplar with 2-ply reinforcement rings, and it has 30-degree bearing edges. The classic style hardware includes double-edge double flange hoops, double-end streamline casing lugs, die-cast bass drum claws and T-rods, and classic arch spurs.
The snare drum on this kit is this gorgeous 6-point pink Aristocrat. What I like about this, it's the feel and the sound. Right away, as soon as I tuned it to the same as the other snare drums, I was like, yep, that's my favorite snare of this shootout. Sorry, I have no problem saying that.
Now, originally, we wanted to showcase the higher-end George Way series, the Aristocrat Studio series, but we didn't have one in stock or in the right sizes or something. I don't remember what it was. But using these drums was kind of a pleasant surprise. Now, this kit is literally half the price of the other 3 kits that we're showing you today. As a result of that, they had to cut costs somewhere. And where they've done that is with the amount of hardware that you see on these drums. Bass drum only has 8 lugs. The toms are also single lug, so you have these very long tension rods, which can be a little wonky to deal with, but once you dial it in, they're great. And the heads that you get on this kit, they say they're Remo. They are blank, this is the only drum brand that I've seen ship with blank heads, but I have a solution for that. All you have to do is get a Sharpie, and you can write there. You can make them whatever you want.
Ron's gonna be so It's gonna be so Now that we got all that out of the way, I love these drums. I felt like I was the most comfortable playing this particular kit on that day, and maybe it was just that they're lighter weight shells and the way they felt under the stick was exactly what I like. All I can say is that when I was playing them, the sound on the kick drum felt big but kind of controlled in a nice way. The toms felt the most balanced to me. When I went to mix it later, I still felt the same way. So take it for what it's worth. I've played a few kits in my time. However, this kit really spoke to me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and again, this is half the price of the other kits, and it does hold its own. I don't know that I would want to, throw this in the back of a van every night and take it to a bunch of gigs, but, the sound, the feel, the look, it's all there, and half the price. And if you feel like, taking these drums and stepping it up a level with higher quality hardware, the Aristocrat series is a great option.
Yeah.
And I think will still come in under the price point of the other 3 kits that we've mentioned today.
Yeah, those lugs will give you a lot more tuning stability, which if you're a harder hitter, it's something you're definitely going to want.
So there you have it. Side by side, there are subtle differences to the sound.
Yeah, I right away noticed just how similar they were. We did really make sure that the tuning was the same. So pick a drum and focus on it. Listen to the toms, listen to the bass drum, listen to the snare drum. You know, focus on an individual element one at a time, and you'll start to pick those differences out. You're gonna need speakers that are of some level of quality. If you're just listening like this, you know, and then you come in the comments and say like, oh, you know, they sound exactly the same to me. Well,
what did you think was going to happen?
And Tony, which one did you like the most today, and which one would you take home?
it's interesting because the kit that I like the most is the one we're still sitting behind, which is the George Way Tuxedo Studio kit. It felt the best to me to play. It made me play the best, I feel like. And I don't know, there's just something about it that kind of spoke to me. Where it gets interesting is if I were to pick one of these kits to own, I'm probably going with the Ludwig. And even though I love this kit, the way it sounds, the way it felt, there's something about the tuning stability of the Ludwig. There's something about the slightly more rugged nature. I'm not necessarily the most finessed drummer on the planet. That probably would be the one I would put my money behind. That being said, if this was the Aristocrat version, maybe my story would be different.
Kind of similarly with me, I appreciated and really liked the Rogers kit. Putting this kit together and just getting into the details of it, looking at the shells and, you know, really examining things closely and the sturdiness of the drums. I like the Rogers. However, I think I would also go with the Ludwig if it were me, just because it's so nice. It's tricked out. The dampeners are a great utility if you're out on the road or if you're in the studio. Just a lot more control. And I might be addicted to the odor of the Reso coat as well.
Yeah, it might be turning into a problem.
Yeah.
I will say, the only thing that I would mark against it, the curved spurs, you may love, you may hate. I prefer telescoping spurs like you find on the Gretsch kit, but whatever.
Yeah, and you can order them like that if you'd like.
Yeah.
Tons of customization options on the Ludwig.
That's going to do it. Let us know what you thought in the comments. What one was your favorite? What one was your least favorite? Did we leave something out? I'm sure we did. Let us know.
And if you enjoyed this video, hey, why not subscribe to our YouTube channel? It's a great way to stay informed on all things drums and an easy way to support our independently owned drum shop. For all of us here at DCP, we'd like to thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Yeah, so the cymbals we used.
Yeah, Peisty 602, these are the classics. 14-inch medium hi-hats, 16-inch thin crash, 18-inch paper thin crash, and 20-inch medium ride.
Classic. All right, now we're done.